Ashwin, give us the sense of what it means to go through a weekend like this murderous and this bloody for our soldiers.
Well, I think that that all of us, I mean, whether you've served or not, I mean, just as Americans, you look at it, and I think everyone's devastated by it. And as you pointed out in your introduction, it's another reminder every time we get these reports back of casualties that this has been going on now for 10 years, and there's no real daylight or no real end in sight. And I think a lot of people are wondering what's sort of the exit strategy here, and what's the end game, and how much more is this going to cost, both in money and in troops, and what are we achieving at what price? Your thoughts and emotions, having not only listened to Ashwin, Tony, but digesting the news.
Well, it's horrific by the fact that there is, as he said, no end in sight. I was stunned 3 weeks ago when I was asked to sit in on some hearings. A congressman asked me to sit in and listen to Lieutenant General David Barno and retired General Keane both talk in sworn testimony about the progress made in Afghanistan. And get this, and you and I have talked about this innumerable times, General Keane actually said they have made such great progress that, quote, the Taliban are no longer able to conduct military operations against military targets, leaving only civilian targets to attack, which, of course, if you think about it, counterinsurgency means you're supposed to protect the civilians. So right there, they've undermined their own strategy. But both Barno, who was there when I was there, right, and Keane said that they made progress, yeah, and they could no longer attack. It's amazing.
But let's back this all the way up.
Right.
America, as all three of us know, has invested trillions of dollars in resources, both economic and human, in defending itself and protecting itself from a sense of threat going back to 9/11. We won't even go before that. We know for a fact that there's limited al-qaeda in Afghanistan. We know for a fact that Pakistan took that helicopter that crashed from the bin Laden assassination or killing and gave it to the Chinese, who didn't have it before. It was a stealth helicopter. Okay? There's a pile of evidence that Pakistan's... We know all that. I'm not getting into Pakistan crazy. We know that our troops and our tax dollars are going through the Khyber Pass into Afghanistan. And those trucks, a certain percentage, everybody has a different number, but 20%, 30%, are hijacked outright for our enemy. And the other 2/3 to 3/4 that we put in, all with our money, our troops, our stuff, we pay bribes to the enemy so that they can then buy either weapons to fight us with or take it to Dubai and buy a condo on the beach. How real, Tony, is the threat to American security of indulging the fantasy of security through this war in Iraq while ignoring the reality of threats that exist not only in Pakistan, but through the deprivation of our own real security in our own country?
That's the key. You have the official elements of DOD talking in terms of victory and progress. And for, you know, I put on my Facebook right after the hearings, I felt like it's 1969 again. We're in a situation, Dylan, like the Pentagon Papers, where the reality, and I talked to one of my close colleagues who was just there 2 weeks ago over the weekend, he said it's getting worse. So the problem is this: you have the official elements of the Pentagon who have basically signed on to perpetuating the set of lies. They're committed to it, and no matter what the reality is, the fact that we pay for bribes to have the trucks come in, that money goes directly to our enemy, and then we're paying for the bullets which are killing our own troops. It's truly insane, and no one's willing to do the hard things, which is look at this for the reality and do something about it.
Yeah, and to that end, let's accept this for what it is, Ashwin. What can people watching the show, what can I as a host of this show, what can we do to help people better understand the nature of this conversation so that we can focus the resources we're all so desperate to devote towards security in a way that actually provides it, as opposed to bankrupting ourselves, gratifying our ego, playing yippee-ki-yay, while in the process ensuring the opportunity for our real threats to get worse.
Yeah, well, Dylan, what I would say is asking the questions that you just asked right now, which is, what is the return on investment that we are getting for these huge prices that we paid? I mean, for all of the troops that have died since 2001, both in Iraq and Afghanistan, for all of the trillions of dollars that have been spent, are we more safe? or are we more secure as a result of it? Is all of this militarism and is all of this presence throughout the Middle East making our country safer and helping protect us? And I think that if people honestly ask that question and look around, I think the answer is undeniably no, it's not. I don't think that the war in Iraq has made us safer, and I think it's very debatable whether the war in Afghanistan has made us safer. And if we ask those questions, then the next question is, well, how can we expend these resources better? And I think once that conversation starts, then I think that we're on the right path.
Tony, you won a Bronze Star in military conflict, running missions most of us will never really understand and can't truly appreciate the threat of bodily harm that both you and Ashwin fundamentally understand in a way no one who isn't a soldier ever will. What is the risk as a soldier in a conflict situation of being attracted to something that you think will make you feel safer while ignoring things that are actually likely to kill you? What's the risk?
Well, the risk is high at this point. We have right now the best military ever. We have great men and women who are serving and giving their all. The problem is this, Dylan, the objectives which they're being assigned to accomplish are not fundamentally making us safer as we just talked about.
Thank you.
The bottom line is this: we need to look at the region. The Pakistanis have nuclear weapons. The Indians have their own issues. The Iranians, and frankly, slugging it out with a 10th century tribal group that are essentially a freedom movement now is not making us safer.
Ashwin, is it clear that somebody who knows certainly more than I do, and perhaps more than any of the three of us do, could sit with a map of that part of the world and understand what the real power dynamic is? Cold War between Iran and Saudi Arabia that's playing out projected in Iraq. That basic understanding that what you're looking at is really a power dynamic between Tehran and Saudi Arabia that's in this expansion, and Iran is feeding into those unrest down south in Yemen to try to screw with the Saudi Arabians. The Pakistani-Indian relationship, which has its own core misalignment of interests, and yet we are not relating to this region with our brilliant, incredibly disciplined, well-trained, best arm. I mean, the level of both human capital and economic capital that exists in our army to reiterate, in our military, to reiterate Tony's point, when properly and effectively aligned with intelligent strategy, would seem to be remarkable. Do those people exist, Ashwin?
Well, you know, Dylan, we're dealing with, as you mentioned, conflicts, ethnic conflicts that have gone on for hundreds and even thousands of years in this part of the world. I mean, you mentioned some of them between India and Pakistan, between Iran, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia, and not to mention the different tribal conflicts within Afghanistan. And we've taken sort of this position or adopted this posture of trying to insert ourselves in the middle of it and trying to make sense of it, and kind of adopted this idea that we can change it or stabilize it and create these Western-style democratic governments that we think will be friendly to us. I'm not sure that that's realistic. And it's particularly given the timeline. We've been there for 10 years, which is very long by our standards because, you know, it's been a 10-year war. But by their standards, by the length of these ethnic conflicts, it's nothing. It's not even a blip.
This is just how they spend the summer, right, Ashwin?
Yeah.
We barbecue and they fight.
It's I would say that in many parts of these, in many of these areas, we're dealing with people who are very accustomed to fighting and have been doing it for many, many years. Their fathers, their grandfathers, and so forth, and they've been fighting the same groups for a very long time, and I'm not sure that our presence can change that.
Yeah, there's a smarter way to use the resources we have. Yes, Tony, do we have a misaligned interest here of some kind? What, am I missing something?
Yes, one of the four-star generals I talk to often has said we have to demilitarize what we're doing. This is not our fight. It's not our job to democratize the Middle East. Frankly, we shouldn't be picking winners or losers within Afghanistan. We're siding with the Karzai and the Northern Alliance over the Pashtun. Why? There's no reason there for that. And frankly, the larger issues have gone back centuries. And again, we should be looking at how to use lessons learned and the ideals, our ideals, rather than military force. We cannot fight our way out of this. We have to use diplomacy, and we have to lead by example, both of which at this point we're not doing well.
All right.